Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime series with Kevin, an executive coach, trainer, and international leadership facilitator and host of the Lunchtime series, where we're adding value to people's lives, happening every day at 12 on ebizradio.com. Joining me for the hashtag Candid Conversations with my cousin, my wonderful co-host, Lauren Britz, all the way from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. How are you doing, Lauren?
I'm doing so good, Kev. Having a wonderful morning here in South Florida. Having the best winter ever. So it's nice and warm. We've got our short sleeves on, and it's.
When you say winter, it's not exactly winter, right?
It's not it. No, we've had our 2 days of cold. I think it's over now. So back to the beach for us. But yes, no, everything's good. You know, it's a busy time of year, and looking forward to having this conversation with you today.
Yes, Lels, I mean, about the conversations. So, you know, hashtag Candid Conversations with my cousin really is about, you know, reaching across the pond, as some would call it, and really speaking to, you know, different cultures, different countries and versions of what happens in the world. But really also having that sort of candid approach to everything. And I mean, last week we had a bit of a nice intake on, you know, the top trends happening in business according to Forbes. But today we're going to throw it on its head and kind of go about COVID-19, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we know we're talking about it, and we're not going to talk about how it's affected people and in the obvious ways that it has, but rather to kind of go, what are those top conspiracy theories around COVID-19,
yes,
and what that's all about? Because I know, you know, offline, you and I have sort of touched on it, but what those are, I mean, and I just want to touch lightly on some, according to, and guys, this is not me, this is according to the NewYorkPost.com, so you can go check it out. One of the conspiracy theories is coronavirus is being used as a bioweapon. Okay, that's the one. Bill Gates is using COVID-19 to install human tracking devices.
Yes.
The 5G, this is also a big one that's come up. 5G cell towers are to blame for coronavirus. I don't know exactly how. And then also, COVID-19 will usher the world into a new world order, which also is interesting. And then the last one they have here is it's COVID-19 is all about devil worshippers. Also, some of these are like yeah, that could happen, but some of these are like, what the hell? Kind of like, really, what have you? Because like, it's crazy.
You know, we have touched on these, and I love the fact that we can speak about these from different worldly platforms, because there's so many different things going on in our countries, and even just culturally, you know, Americans have always been a little bit conspiracy theory prone. So, you know, it's very interesting for me because I think I'm very much a balanced human, but I don't really overlook anything. I like to look at things and see where they come from. Now, it's unfortunate that people are like, well, it's a conspiracy theory, so they just throw out the information. They don't look at it at all. But I think this is very interesting stuff. And, you know, this article from the New York Post is kind of biased in the sense that they're saying that all these things are crazy, right? Like, how could Bill Gates be doing that? And 5G. And I think that there's actually a lot more to it, to be quite honest. You know, coronavirus is a biochemical weapon. I think that's very possible. I mean, why is that such a crazy conspiracy theory? You know, this has been happening forever. And yeah, a lot of people here in America in particular, and I'm sure around the world, believe that this virus was manufactured, much like many other viruses we've dealt with, in a lab in China. I'm just going to say it. This is not news. A lot of people think this. And apparently there are still currently investigations going on, people investigating if that's true, but now China is saying, oh, well, America started the virus. Maybe both of them, who knows, you know, in cahoots with each other. You know, there's a lot of this going on as well. We think like China's our enemy. I think a lot of our government keeps China close, the enemy really close.
I've actually watched a lot of the news around people like wanting to investigate, like where did this originate and why, and what I have seen on news on like I think it was Sky News, where China has put a stop to having anyone just come into their country and investigate this.
Yes.
So I mean, that already throws out alarm bells. So, and also the whole thing about climate change, and you know, if we can get rid of some people, we could sort of start flattening the climate change curve based on our carbon footprint, etc., etc. And that apparently, I've also read that, you know, that's one of the reasons why it was the quickest way to get rid of people, basically, and to do it without looking like killing people.
Yeah, because, you know, a lot of people ask, like, why would anybody want to do that? But what people on the ground don't always realize, and this is something that during my journalism days, especially when I was in, you know, Africa, like, you know, places like Ethiopia and Somalia and these types of places, there are people out there that are trying to depopulate the earth so that other people can survive over others. And this takes me into the Bill Gates segment. You know, my first question is, why is Bill Gates all up in health? You know, he's a tech guru. Why is he all up in health? And a lot of people have only seen him show up in coronavirus. What they don't realize, and I'm just reading it here, there's an article written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., right? And it's all about Bill Gates' crimes against humanity. I mean, this goes on and on and on and on about him sterilizing people without their knowledge in Africa, even here on number 11. And anybody can look this up to read it. You just read Bill Gates, Crimes Against Humanity by Robert F. Jr. Kennedy. And he says here, even like Nelson Mandela's former senior economist, Professor Patrick Bond, described Bill Gates' philanthropic practices as ruthless and immoral. He's done this in Haiti. He's done this in Africa. He's done this in, you know, in lots of places in Africa, Kenya. The WHO organization is very, very involved. This is why people have lost trust in the World Health Organization. So there's a lot, you know, so while people are only seeing this for the first time, Bill Gates pop up here with vaccinations and stuff, it is no wonder that people are like, I am not taking a Bill Gates vaccination. And, you know, here's like 20 reasons why. And these are reasons that have been going on for a decade, so, or even more. And so, you know, I really urge people to go read up on that, because there's a lot there that is not a conspiracy. This stuff has been gone through, it's been worked through. The fact that he's not in prison for crimes against humanity, in my opinion, is kind of strange. Kind of strange if you read all of that, you know, and then take this into consideration. So is it really that far-fetched at this point in our existence to think that this isn't biochemical? And this wasn't planned so that a person like Bill Gates, who's been up on his vaccinations forever now, busy researching and developing, that he might want to, deliver a microchip. If you were going to deliver a microchip into the planet and all the people on it, how would you do that? You'd do it through a vaccination. And some of these vaccinations are not needle-based. You know, they're little patches that sit on your hand. It's very inconspicuous. So is it true? I guess we'll find out. But it's possible.
To add to that is you can Google it now. You can just go on YouTube and look at where Bill Gates stands on a stage in 2015.
Yes.
Sort of saying, you know, the quickest way for us to or the biggest danger that we have or we may foresee in the future is not that we're actually going to go to war with each other, is that we're probably going to have some kind of virus that affects our lungs. And like he actually speaks about, you know, having this kind of, and I was going, well, that's really like random that 2015 he spoke about it, and 5 years later it's happening, and he's still involved in it somehow. It's just weird.
It's too obvious. It's just too obvious. I don't claim to know the reality and the truths, but I will say I'm extremely personally suspicious of the Gates Foundation and Bill Gates in general. It's something that everybody needs to think about, because the vaccination will become a real thing as we move forward. As far as, there's even people saying that you won't be able to travel unless you have this vaccination. And that already exists. If I go to Uganda, I can't go there without a yellow fever vaccination.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it be the same with corona? It'd be just very easy to implement. So yeah, it is very interesting. But yeah, there's no doubt that Bill Gates and his cronies may very well be delivering a microchip. But I wouldn't say initially. I'd say eventually.
Yeah, I mean, and that leads to the next kind of connection to that is the 5G towers, right? So I've also watched, a lot of information around 5G, and there are some scientists that kind of go, guys, 5G is absolutely safe. It's fine. It's just a frequency, and the frequency that it's measured at is not dangerous to humans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, there are people that say that, but I reference back to, we're on our way. I just saw a post now on Facebook saying, okay, there are 3 different countries that are in the orbits of Mars currently, right now, in this week. So the UAE, China, and the USA, NASA, are all in orbit of Mars in this week. And I'm going, what the hell?
Is it in retrograde?
Yeah, exactly.
Could be.
So you're kind of going, okay, well, we're already going to Mars. How far away is it that 5G towers are not going to have some kind of, and COVID and the injection, like it's, to put that together, it's like it just doesn't all add up all the time.
The one thing with 5G and 6 and 7 and 8 and whatever's coming next, like we're already in a new time. We just haven't labeled that time. I want to call it the new space age, but space age was already used back when we went to space. But what I would say about 5G, Kev, is that, there's this guy, Anthony William, who's also known as the medical medium. He's a health person. His view is that 5G is just electromagnetically bad for your body and your brain. So that's like a whole health aspect of 5G. Also something very, very important to consider, because at some point we're just going to be pummeled. We're already being pummeled with lots of, like electromagnetic waves and all these things that are not good for our bodies, microwaves and stuff. However, I feel like 5G, 6G, whatever's next, was the impetus potentially behind the coronavirus. For the next technologies to work, and if you've ever watched Minority Report, it's a really good little example of how it might actually end up working. They need humans to function in a certain way. Yeah. And I feel like potentially the coronavirus was used not only to depopulate the earth because of this next technology, but also to start getting us to move in a certain particular way. We've all been indoctrinated now with masks, and we're a little bit more cattle-like now, and following rules and directions. And some countries are stricter than others. They got a stronger hold on their people, and everyone's getting our face with the mask on it, like all the little, being able to recognize facial recognitions. So there's probably so much more to it than I'm aware of, obviously, but I feel like that was the impetus for it, because the next technologies that bring space and everything else together require us to function in a certain way. So it's not that 5G is causing corona. It's that corona, 5G was the push to make something happen next, because they needed our behaviors to change. So yes, I think there's a health issue that will happen. There'll be a crisis in electromagnetic waves, but I don't think that 5G causes the virus necessarily. So although they are connected for sure. I mean, what do you think, Kev? It's definitely very interesting, the way that this happened, the timing of it.
Well, if you look at the upside of what 5G does, right, at the speed of what the information travels, the upside of 5G is that you almost instantaneously have information with you. There's no sort of waiting for something or like watching your video sort of stagger into your phone or anything like that. It's almost instantaneous. So information travels unbelievably fast. Elon Musk has released those satellites into orbit, so he could share internet with the world. That's part of his plan. So I get information in today's world. I'm kind of going, imagine if the entire Africa had information at the tips of their fingers. Right.
Yeah, and this is a big goal for big tech companies. I know Facebook's been, droning drones over Africa to try to see if they can deliver Wi-Fi and stuff. But they also have to deliver infrastructure and learning while they do that. So interesting task for sure, but it would be amazing.
It would be amazing, right? So imagine where the planet would be in creating new technology if there were more people exposed to information. That's the one side. The downside to it is kind of going, well, what impact does it have on the planet, on people? How are governments sort of losing control based on the fact that more people are informed and not controlled by government? So, and I think, if we had to really delve into conspiracy theories around why people would do this, I do think that social media in a big way, and that's why Facebook is under such scrutiny around what they're sharing and how they're sharing it, is people can now literally take a video and share it and reach millions, like within seconds, and influence people to a large degree. We see that, when Donald Trump was on Twitter, how he managed to do that, and it was his right, as you mentioned last, he had freedom of speech. But the scary side is like, what if it is, or what does it invoke, like real trauma in people, and really get people to act out really negatively? So, people are really unstable.
it's going to have an effect, regardless. 5G, 6G, I don't know that people are ready for it. And as we go through the ages, like we're getting older, like slowly but surely we'll start losing touch of what's new. And it'll be freaky. I mean, the other day I was sitting here thinking, like, my grandma died at 93. Like, when I'm 93, what is the world going to be like? It's going to be crazy. And am I going to be able to keep up with all that insanity?
But then it leads, I mean, that still leads straight into the next point here. Like, COVID is ushering us into a new world order. I don't even know what new world order is, and what that means.
Wow.
But essentially, a new world order could simply mean that if we connect these dots, and they do have control over the fact that everyone now has the vaccine, and there's a way that it's controlling us to a degree. You're kind of going, okay, well, I can see how that becomes a new world order, and why people would want to do this.
Listen, the New World Order is a conspiracy theory in a way, and not. Like, there's so much information about it. It's headed up by the top, they reckon the top 6 banks, or the top 6 people that own all the top banks in the world. Banks we've never even heard of. Banks you don't even know the names to. And that is matched and paired up by again, it's funny how the number 6 comes up a lot. There's also 6 media companies in the whole world that own all the media. And when I say all the media, I mean every station that owns another station, that owns another station, that owns another station, all come down to 6 companies in the world. That comes down to 6 people. Those people are the most powerful on the planet. You will not hear their names very often.
Yeah.
That is the point. The point is they don't want to be known. They don't want to be seen. They're undercover. It's clandestine. And it would be a little bit, in my world, naive to think that it's not happening. You know, why does Disney is one of those six. They own pretty much half the media, if not more of it, a third of it, you know, in the whole world. Yeah. So it's very weird, because one way that the New World Order does come in is, like you say, control through vaccinations, control through who's traveling where, absolute control, being able to track every human on the planet like this, which is why the microchips are a thing, right? So these people want a apparently they want a totalitarian one world government. Yeah. And it's the people that manage all the money and the people that manage all the information and the flow of information. That is how you will manipulate. So you said it earlier. Will the governments lose control because they think people are informed? No, because they will be informed by government information or the New World Order information, which they will in essence think is true. There is so much fake news that we don't even know is fake. Like, we just here on the ground, we live very different lives from the people in, you know, in those positions than on the ground. So
yeah, well, one of the questions that, you know, from a South African perspective, you know, chatting to people, and the general consensus is that's not something we really talk about. Like, no. Is it something like Americans talk about? Does it ever come up in conversation?
So, you know what's very interesting, and like I said earlier, people have now labeled anything they don't like as conspiracy information. Listen, everyone's like, well, if it wasn't on CNN or wasn't on Fox News or wasn't on BBC, like the main news channels, I don't watch those channels because I'm being told a vision, you know, and it's true. I'm being told what to think, and I've realized that. I'm not saying it's false news. I'm just saying that I'm filtering it through way more filters because I'm a bit suspicious of all the main news. There's an agenda behind all, you know, all of them have an agenda. It's all the independent news people that are coming out now with their stations. So yes, Americans talk about it a lot, but there's two conversations going on. One is you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, and the other one is, you know, the world's going to end and then the NWOs are going to take over. But it gets even crazier, Kev. And, you know, that takes us into our next topic on these conspiracy theories, which is probably the hardest one to believe if you're a skeptic. And it's probably the easiest one to believe if you're if you're a conspiracy theory. And that is, you know, that all these 5G and Corona and all these New World Order groups are in the occult, sex traffickers and Satanists, and that somehow Corona is attached to that.
Well, I mean, on that point, so, you know, when you, and this again, it's just my opinion, I don't believe in Satan, so you know, that to me is that's not a valid point. But, you know, I do know, and I have done my fair share of investigation online, and also the deep web, you know, the dark web, which people know, and the information that comes out of that around sex trafficking and the entire industry that it has, and you're kind of going, you know, it's obviously there for a reason on the dark web, and that's why it's on the dark web. And that's why it's not in mainstream media. You know, there's a lot of reasoning if you start looking at it and attaching names to the dark web and sex trafficking. You kind of go, wow, okay. And you know, thankfully, some people have gone to jail that have actually been responsible and have been actually caught out for doing this. So I mean, that to me, that is a, I don't think about the Satanism, but I definitely think about the sex trafficking and child trafficking. I think that is a very scary thing. That's a very scary reality.
So what I will tell you is that I don't know. I mean, I can tell you this because I've read it. Do I believe it? I don't know. This is one of those things that when I die one day, I will ask God, listen, can you just tell me the truth? Because I am blown away by this. And it's so far out there that it's hard to believe. But then it's in another way for me personally, seeing the things I have as a journalist, it's not that bizarre, to be honest, in another way. But this New World Order is connected to the occult. So apparently. So a lot of what's coming out, and it comes out, you know, we tend to separate things, but actually they're all part of the same thing. So sex trafficking, the occult, there's so many segments of this, you know, happening, that everything from the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking cult that's still going on, the investigations with Prince Andrew's involved and all this other stuff, that's still being investigated. But it goes deeper, because there are stories, and I don't know if you've seen some of these documentaries online, you know, the Justin Bieber, the Paris Hilton documentary, the new one, Framing Britney, that just came out, MK Ultra, CIA mind tactics. What they suggest is that whatever route you've taken, a lot of these, you may not believe in Satan, but evil still exists. And really, they call it the Luciferian doctrine. That's what it's called. And that gets really complicated when you read into it, because it looks like a good way to be, but it's actually quite evil. And what they're saying is that this is huge in Hollywood. This has become a massive problem. They've used these tactics and these techniques to indoctrinate people through, you know, Skull and Bones, Illuminati, Freemasonry. If you drive here into Boca Raton, you just cross the city limit. Yeah. You see the Freemason sign right there in front of your eyes. You would miss it if you weren't looking. There's Freemason lodges all over the place. The Bilderberg Group, you know, the Knights Templar. They go on and on and on. So they reckon all these people get indoctrinated. It goes up into the web of insanity, and that all ends up in the New World Order, with 1 or 2 or 3 people at the top. And a lot of people reckon that indicates the all-seeing eye pyramid on our US dollar. So yes, these are things that are being spoken about every single day. They're being discussed. The people talking about these things are being taken off social media by the social media giants. They're being, you know, literally muted from talking about these things. So I would, you know, be cautious. Like, don't be one of those people that's just like, oh, I believe everything. But, you know, what if you woke up one day and found out that adrenochrome, you know, which is a very crazy thing that people do in the occult, they're drinking children's blood. But what if that was a reality? What if it's true? You know, it's very weird. Like, I think sometimes it's just more comfortable to stay in our own bubble. But I would be careful to say that it's not true, but I would be very careful about spreading it, about being it true as well, if we don't know yet. So
that leads me back to where we started, because you kind of go, okay, listening to all of this is like, wow, that's a bit of a brain mess.
No, it's a mind bend. It's like
would you then take the vaccine?
I reserve the right to change my mind. Yeah. But I definitely at this point won't be. And I hope I never get to the point where I'm being forced to. It's a personal decision. You know, not only all of this stuff and Bill Gates, I mean, if you're going to take it, I mean, maybe now's the right time if you're trying to prevent getting a microchip in you. But I think that at the end of the day, one thing we haven't mentioned is a lot of these groups, you know, these health groups around organizations around the world, even the one, and I just read this from a South African today, that the vaccination, and I stand corrected, I have not personally gone in and researched this, but what they're saying, is that the vaccination South Africa just received, 1 million vaccinations for those over 65, have been banned from so many countries. And so many organizations have said this is going to kill people. That, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a very personal choice. I know people that have taken it here and they're fine. But a lot of them are only reporting 84%, 92%. Like, I've had lots of vaccinations. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just think the way they're done is important. So I don't know, but I think for now the answer is no. What about you, Kev? What is your answer?
My only reason to take the vaccine, well, right now, the only reason I can really think to want to take the vaccine is based on traveling. The fact that we can't travel really, really bugs me, you know, so it's a biggie for me, and I like being able to just go, okay, cool, I want to go there, I want to go do that. And I think we're probably going to get to a point where countries say, well, you need a vaccination certificate to prove that that you've had the vaccine.
God, I hope not, but yes.
Okay, well, I will do it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm until it's actually available in South Africa, I'm still completely on the fence with it. So it's
yeah. I mean, we do have a few months. I mean, I've heard that even here, anyway. You know, we're vaccinating 350 million or so people. So we're probably only going to have it available to us, the general population, around September. So it's quite a long time still to wait. But yeah, so we have a lot of time to see things change so fast, as we've seen. Like, who knows? That's why I said I reserve the right. Just because I said no doesn't mean it's no for the rest of my life. I'm a human being. I reserve the right to change my opinion and my mind. So there may come a time where I'm like, you know, this is probably a good idea right now, but for now, it's not available to me, but I probably wouldn't take it, especially if it came from Bill Gates. So I would have to do some research.
Thank you, Lauren. That was a really interesting conversation. I think it's a conversation that people kind of tend to want to avoid, and I'm glad that we could have literally a candid conversation around COVID vaccines. So if you could leave people with a bit of a takeaway of advice or takeaway from today's show, what would that be?
Honestly, you know, I think people get so like, I don't know what's going on, or they read conspiracy theories and they're like, oh, this is real. You know, like, it doesn't matter what you're watching, whether it's conspiracy theory or us, or whether it's, you know, a news station that you watch every day of your life. Just filter it through your own knowledge, your own genius, and make your own decisions based on how you feel. There's 7 billion or plus of us, you know, we're all going to feel different. And remember, we're all in this together. So let's be kind to each other, even if we have a difference of opinion. And keep an open mind, you know, and keep a sense of humor a little bit about all of this, because I think we're going to need that in the years going forward. You know, let's not get too serious, because yeah, we are, but to stay informed is a good idea. Yeah, just be open, and go inside. You know what's best for you, so do what's best for you.
Yeah, I would have the sentiments of keep yourself as informed as possible, and be always on the verge of learning. You know, so always have that aim of curiosity, so that you're not sort of blinded by the obvious choice that everyone just makes, because that's kind of the general way that things move. So I think that curiosity is necessary.
Absolutely.
So, Lance, thank you so much for our chat today. Guys, next week I'm just going down our list of weird, candid conversations we're going to be having. One of the interesting things that I really think is going to be such a pleasure to talk about next week, and I know we both have, because I mean you're working, you know, from a creative perspective. I look at what we've done with the Lunchtime series, and the question on being famous or being infamous.
Oh, yes.
What is the need? What is the big need that we really have, and why do we have such a need in society to showcase this? And I want us to sort of come from a really creative perspective, but also from a brain perspective, to kind of see, what does psychology show around this, and
Right.
creativity, so we can really tackle it from all angles. But Lance, thank you so much. If anyone wants to get hold of you, know more about you, where do we go?
Yes, I'd love to talk to you if you're a company or you are in need of any personal branding or documentation of your architecture or your business or your work. Go to www.laurenbritzphotography.com and just click on book a complimentary consultation, and we can sit and chat for 30 minutes or so and just talk about what you need, what your business needs, and that'll be the easiest way to get hold of me. I look forward to chatting to everyone that comes online.
Fantastic. And as you know, guys, leadershipbydesign.co. Go and check it out. Please chat and get into contact with us. We really want to connect with everyone that we can, and have really interesting conversations. But until next week, Lars, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Kev. Have a great week ahead, and I hope only the greatest for this week. Have an awesome one.
And you. Thank you so much. Chat soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Ciao.